Summer is here. Welcome back to Stock Market Weekly. I'm your host, Evan Medeiros. This is the show where we break down the notable moves across financial markets. Got family up, spent most of the day at the pool today and kind of getting some time away from screens. Got the Hawaiian shirt on, so we are in full kind of relaxation mode over here, but I escaped for a little bit. I'm going to put out a short video here, kind of catching up with what happened this week and what we got looking forward to next week. So let's get into it here. As always, these videos are sponsored by our partners over at Investors Business Daily. Check out the links in the description of this video. Market Surge is a platform I use every single day. Check it out for yourself with an introductory offer in the description of this show. Now, front and center here, first story was Monday's trading session here. We had this, tough to see on this chart, but this particular session here, we had rumors of President Trump threatening to fire Jerome Powell. These two have been basically at odds with one another. The Fed's, so-called independence is always being called into question, and what exactly is driving their hesitation, their decision making. And this is something that I think we will continue to see heat up here as, this administration potentially inserts their own shadow Fed replacement. But the markets get a little bit rattled here. The quick recovery the next day, basically with the rumors being ignited, dispelled from the administration, saying that's not true, and sort of creating a little bit of volatility and panic in this week's trading. The other big catalyst this week was crypto week. So it was crypto week. We had the Genius Act, which was signed and passed. That was the dollar-backed stablecoin legislation. We've talked about stablecoins. We've talked about Circle, Coinbase, and I'm highlighting here Ethereum, which we don't talk about routinely on the show here, but you can see just a very clear breakup and acceleration and pickup here in volume. There's a number of catalysts here. Genius Act is one of them, but it's really kind of kicking off alt season. So we could insert a lot of, other cryptocurrencies here and see some big performance. You got Ripple, you got Solana, you got, right down the list, Sui, all of them doing pretty well this week as they all start to break out, kind of following Bitcoin's breakout last week. Bitcoin digested this week. There's a number of catalysts. Again, just really, you've got Tom Lee out there. You've got some now, RWA sort of real world assets that are starting to get interested here in some of these other blockchains. So it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds. But you're definitely getting a nice little summer rally here in alts. Third story of the week is earnings season, which we are in the middle of now. Netflix reported earnings, and you can see that we got a pretty tough reaction here on the market. Again, Netflix has been a great performer. It's covered a lot of ground this year, but I think one of the themes from this week is, we are seeing just a little bit of sluggish action out there. We've seen basically a market that you almost can't lose in. Every stock you're picking and choosing and kind of trading has been working in this environment. But now you're starting to see some sluggish action here, some tired action that may give us some warning signs that we want to maybe pump the brake on being too enthusiastic as the summertime continues. But if we get into the numbers here and we take a look at the major indices, you got the Qs up over 1%, SPY up a little over 0.5%, and the Russell 2000 finished positive. Dow Jones was negative this week. Again, catalyst is going to be earnings season. You also have some Fed speak, I believe, next week as well. So you got two things to really chew on next week. You can see the path that the market took was, again, that initial wobble here and then a recovery into the end of the week. We're getting all-time closing highs across most of the indices, sectors, ETFs, individual stocks. So again, things are looking good still at a high level, but when you dig under the surface, you're seeing just, again, some warning signs, which we'll look at. The VIX is heading lower, so again, kind of taking the exact opposite path as the indices. They spiked a little bit at the start, and then they drifted lower back to this 16 band, which it feels comfortable staying at. The US dollar bounce is materializing a little bit more, so again, we're starting to now break some more structure, starting to reclaim some levels. I think you really got to get over 99 or even 99.5 to start, really kind of reversing some of those intermediate term trends. So there's still some work to do. The longer term trend is still definitely down right now for the dollar, but it is notably sticky. 10-year Treasury yield, at least, kind of cooled off a little bit towards the end of the week. We started to get back towards that big magical emotional 4.5% level midweek, and then we cooled off into the end. So let's, continue to pay attention. It's still pretty much chop fest, range bound behavior. Lots of attention on rates right now for good reason, but generally speaking, they're just not doing a whole lot on a broader, bigger level. If we take a look at sector performance this week, you had some good, winners and losers here. I mean, tech, utilities, and industrials up nicely this week. But if you were parked in energy or healthcare or materials, you really felt identical amount of losses here. So it was a very split market. Again, mostly positive, but some clear negative, sectors this week. Notice as well when we start to look at our smart trend filter indicator. So this is our breadth measurement across sectors. We only have 4 market sectors that are in a bullish state right now. That's tech, that's consumer discretionary, that's industrials, and utilities. So there's only 4 sectors that are in those strong uptrends. 6 sectors in our neutral state, which is basically just saying that there's some mixed signals, there's some cross currents, there's some bullish activity, there's some bearish sort of evidence as well, and it's kind of, just wait and see. Finally, you just have healthcare. That's it on the downside, on the negative confirmed bearish trend, which happened earlier this week. Again, this is an indicator we have available for TC2000 and TradingView to sort of clean up the noise and help measure path of least resistance. Let's keep moving here with 52-week highs and lows. So again, you're still seeing more stocks hit 52-week highs. We lost a little bit of the momentum here. So notice that we started to slope downward here coming into July, and now we're starting to, kind of flare up a little bit, but generally speaking here, look, the bulls still have some wind at their back, but it's not super strong, and we don't want to see it start to fade right now after the market has been marching towards those all-time highs. S&P 500 stocks, not really that interesting. Put to call ratio getting a little bit pushed up here, so let's pay attention to that. This is Thursday's data, but if we can start to move over, 0.72 or so, then that's a little more meaningful in my book. Bitcoin here, so this is a 3-month view of Bitcoin. Last week, it was our front and center story that we ran because it did break out convincingly so to new all-time highs. We got as high as about 122 or so, and now we're starting to taper off and go a little bit range bound here. It feels like it needs to digest a little bit. I think there was a couple of spots this week where Bitcoin could have really pushed and moved and continued this momentum, but it stalled a couple of those times, and it feels maybe like it just needs to cool off and digest a little bit here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little back and filling, some consolidation, and then see if it can set back up for a continuation pattern into August. So a couple of other notable moves this week from individual stocks and sectors. First is utilities. Utilities broke to all-time highs on Friday. Pretty sleepy move. Doesn't seem like it got too much attention. Not many people care about utilities, of course, but it's a sector at all-time highs, and I think it's worth paying attention to. So don't sleep on it. It's been kind of coiling, consolidating, sluggish sideways, and now it's starting to move a little bit. So XLU, you can look at some of those individual components underneath the hood that are perhaps a little higher beta and or paying greater dividends if that's your cup of tea. Also back to gold. So we haven't really talked about gold the last couple of weeks. We were very excited about it coming into this year. It was kind of a story we were running with each week. And then it started to kind of cool off, and it just put in these series of little, just pivot points essentially. And it would retrace, it would find some support, wouldn't break out, wouldn't break down. And now we're just really carving out kind of a longer term sideways range here. And so I think it's time to start paying attention to gold again. It's coiled, it's gotten even tighter here recently. So I would pay attention to this potential resolve now. It's been moving sideways since April, and I think it's getting close to a breakout. Mag 7. So earnings is coming up. Some of the Mag 7 start reporting next week. I know Tesla does. Some of the others might be the following week still, but this is just a snapshot here, year to date of Mag 7. And again, you can see it's a split race here. NVIDIA and Microsoft holders, you're happy, right? 2025 has been a great year for you. You're up 20% plus. Same with Meta. But if you're a Tesla holder or an Apple holder, then you're not too happy. You're almost down 20% on the year. So there's been some winners. There's been some losers. There's clear reasons, I think, for both of these losers and for the winners. And then you kind of just have Amazon and Google, which are just kind of floating in between, right? They're kind of this glass half full, half empty, depending on how you want to look at it. But this will be interesting to see which way these start to go. If they tip into the kind of the winners bucket or the losers bucket, I'm going to be paying attention to earnings this season. But for now, the market clearly has the win behind NVIDIA, Microsoft. Now, a couple of other stock ideas, just, something on my radar is Coreweave. Coreweave, I think, is interesting. And again, this kind of comes to some of the little cracks we're seeing in the market right now. So Coreweave basically is at the center of the AI thematic trade right now, and it's getting a little bit sloppier here. Again, it had a tremendous move, right, which is tough to justify the valuation, I would say, up towards these highs. But it is kind of flattened out and leveled off, and it's starting to round lower. I'm interested. I'm watching it, right? This would be a thematic play that I think has more innings left in it, but not yet, right? Not my cup of tea just now. So I'm watching it. I'm watching how it handles the sub 120s. I think I put out a post on X earlier this week that I'm starting to, I'd be more interested closer to 100. We'll see if it gets there, and we'll see how the action looks at that time. So Coreweave is just something on my watch list that I'm paying attention to as a barometer and a potential, kind of dip buy. A couple of other names that I wanted to highlight here. So this is from our new Quant Rockets momentum model. Quant Rockets had a pretty great week for momentum, generally speaking. There were losers, but the winners were much larger. So RGTI was one of them. RGTI is one that we got into on July 8th, and we immediately suffered a little bit of a pullback here. So kind of just got slapped in the face on the initial buy, didn't get any sell signals, and then we had a kind of a nice catapult move, breakout move, and it's off to the races. So I like the structure here. I like that it kind of broke out through this horizontal area. This is kind of a inverted pattern or whatever you want to call it, but it's got some good momentum, volumes coming in, filling this gap here, and it looks like it wants to get back up towards those highs. Soundhound is another one that is on our Quant Rockets list, and this one offered kind of two entries here. So we got involved here. I do have a position in this, so I took this trade along with our momentum model here. Had a nice spike up, gave pretty much all of it back. Found some support, and it's off to the rate, it's starting to move again into the end of the week. So I think Sound is interesting. Again, similar pattern, just different stocks, of course, but, starting to break through this cluster, this clear resistance band here of going sideways, and now it's starting to get some momentum. So I think it's interesting to have a position, and we'll see how it goes. So next week, on deck for next week, winding down here, we got Jerome Powell speech on Tuesday, so let's pay attention to that. We're going to look for more of the headlines there. I'm sure you'll get asked and questioned about, the administration and being independent and President Trump's thoughts and all that fun stuff. Otherwise, nothing too wild here. We do have initial jobless claims on Thursday, so be something to pay attention to as well. So that is it. That's what I've got for this week. Short video, a little bit late this week, but enjoying summertime. Hope you are too, and we'll be back next week on schedule with a full episode. So thanks for tuning in. As always, don't forget to subscribe. Check out the links in the description of the show. Have yourself a great weekend, and we'll see you back here next episode.